Wow, what a wild ride the Alien franchise is, Mason.
What a wild, miserable ride. This has knocked the wind right out of my sails, this one, honestly.
Doesn't Aliens just leave you wanting more of
Or
these
less?
movies? Do you think? I always end that movie with like, God, I love this franchise. Incredible.
Oh, I thought you meant. Never mind.
You thought I meant a different thing.
Yeah, I thought you meant the Alien franchise always leaves you wanting more.
No, the first two do.
Oh, yeah, the first two do, yeah.
Yeah. But look, today we're talking about Alien 3. Well, a very specific version of it anyway, which we'll talk about. But if you don't mind in the lead up to that, I want to talk about how Alien 3 came to be.
Sure.
Please leave a like on this video.
Does it have to do with money and wanting more money?
It's mostly Fox saying we don't have any big hits and we need more money.
Interesting.
So let's put a lot of money into a franchise which does okay.
Terrific.
And then put a lot of pressure on everybody who's in it
Okay, sure.
to make an R-rated movie
Yeah. And let's
hugely successful.
Let's put in too many cooks and hope that doesn't spoil the broth, the acidic alien broth.
What about if we killed some really popular people? Would that fix the broth?
I think it would. Start the next one out with some real bad vibes, I reckon. That'll do it.
Anyways, even before the release of Aliens, James Cameron, who of course directed that one, was approached by 20th Century Fox for another sequel. He had an idea to focus on Ripley, Newt, and Hicks trying to function as a family, but something has gone awry with Bishop, and it's kind of inferred that somebody's tampered with his brain to make him more dangerous.
Oh.
Cameron also told the studio that, look, why don't you bring back Ridley Scott for Alien 3 and then he would do 4. So Ridley Scott was also approached to return to the franchise, who turned it down.
So they would do like sort of back-to-back sequel situation.
Same again,
They could
yeah.
alternate, okay.
Yeah.
And then the next guy would have to write the next movie without having seen the previous movie. Just guess at it, you know?
Just guess at it.
Yeah.
That's fine. But of course, James Cameron went on to make Terminator 2 and various other projects. Ridley Scott was doing, I don't know. Anyways...
It's made a million movies, that man.
That's right, yeah.
A lot of them are good.
Absolutely. So Rennie Harlan, who directed Die Hard 2, came on board.
And The Long Kiss Goodnight.
He did, that's right.
Gina Davis's husband, I think.
For a time, yes. The idea was to go back to the alien homeworld, which is not a terrible idea. I mean, they ended up sort of doing it in Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Yeah, huh?
It was also his idea to have the aliens come to Earth, which I guess led to the first teaser trailer for this.
Yeah, right.
If you recall, they had a release date and the promise of the alien coming to Earth before they thought of anything else.
That's right, just the alien just wandering around in New York City getting a slice off a cart.
Oh my God.
Getting a hot dog,
off
getting
a
an ice
cart.
cream off a cart.
cart.
Being like, oh, I don't have a taste for human meat anymore at all. New York's got everything. It's a big apple.
So there's. And Rudy Giuliani's cleaned up all these streets.
That's right.
He's America's mayor. I love how this is the alien's voice, by the way.
I've got acid for blood. I'm gonna eat ya. No, just kidding. I'm going to stick you to a wall, though.
Anyways, then it was thrown to David Toohey. He came up with the Criminal Planet element. He also directed Pitch Black.
Oh, he loves a Criminal Planet then, clearly.
Also, that's an incredible Aliens-esque movie, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Then Vincent Ward came on board. He directed...
Vincent Ward came on board.
That's right.
Wow. Do you think that's what he announced? He kicked the door and he's like, guess what, folks? Vincent Ward's come on board.
And they said, who?
Vincent Ward.
Vincent Ward.
The guy that comes on board.
I'm about to direct What Dreams May Come in a few years, he said.
Oh.
His idea was monks in space on a wooden planet.
Wooden planet.
Yeah. Do you remember that idea? There was a whole lot of concepts. This
Yeah,
was
vaguely, yeah.
very nearly the direction they went.
And they spent a whole bunch of money on it, and then somebody went, how would a wooden planet work? Oh.
We didn't think about that,
Let's
actually.
scrap this whole thing then.
But that's pretty much what happened, because one of the producers said, well, why don't we just make them convicts? And instead of a wooden planet, even though you're building all these sets, why don't we make it a mining colony? Also, do you have any kind of concept art of an alien, but it looks like a sheep and it's got a human's face sticking out of its butt? Yes, here it is.
Okay, great. Just had that lying around?
Yeah, so it was basically like he was told, look, you need to do this or you are going to be fired or leave. He also found out that his assistant that was given to him from the studio was reporting back every night. So
A spy?
A spy. There was a lot of interference, so he stepped away. And then, of course, David Fincher came on board. Now, if you think you hate this movie, you do not hate it as much as David Fincher does.
So this was his debut, because he used to do music videos before that?
He did one for Madonna.
Uh-huh.
He did one for a different person.
Sure.
There's probably a third one. Here it is.
Yeah.
God.
Bad Donna, the evil Madonna.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. He'd work both sides of the fence.
I thought that was regular Madonna.
Well, surprise.
I've just heard some things, Mason. Anyways, in an interview with The Guardian, he said, I had to work on it for 2 years, got fired off it 3 times, and I had to fight for every single thing. No one hated it more than me. To this day, no one hates it more than me.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, maybe some of the people you made like do 60 or 70 takes of a scene probably hate it as much or more than you, David Fincher. Also, probably anybody else could have knocked it out in 1 year.
Well, look, he
does a lot of takes, David
He
Fincher.
certainly does. And that was a problem, according to the studio, though he had the complete backing of Sigourney Weaver, who completely believed in him as a director.
She's a Sigourney believer.
That's right. And it turns out she was right because, yeah, he is an incredible director. Who knew? Not Fox, it turned out at the time. But he also said that during the 1992 LA riots, when they got close to the lab where the film's negatives were being developed, he hoped the entire building would burn down. And the film with it. So yeah, there was massive studio interference. There was constant notes. There was no clear idea of what the studio wanted. So there was also rewrites on top of that. There was $7 million in unused sets. Also, it was considered by the studio to be a sure thing. So they were just like, whatever, just do it. But do it like this. But no, not like that, more like this.
Yeah.
But I would say, I like this movie. I think with a couple of tweaks...
Well, it's too late.
Yeah, it's way too late.
This movie came out in 1992. It's too late.
Yeah.
We don't have any control over the edit of this movie.
It's too late.
It's too late.
Okay, there's a couple of ways I think this movie could have been better received. One, you keep Hicks and Newt in cryogenic status the entire movie, so it's not such a downer.
So you don't spend the first 20 minutes of the movie revolving around the death and then the dissection of a little girl. Specifically the little girl we got to know and love in the first movie that Ripley spends the back half of that movie trying to save.
I remember the movie.
Yeah, and I understand, like, maybe the idea here is, well, this is a cruel and unjust universe, and sometimes bad things happen to good people. But
again
and
again.
It just wiped out the point of the last movie. They could have all just died.
Now, you mentioned that autopsy scene. Now, if you've seen the theatrical cut of this, you might be thinking, what is he talking about? Has Mason imagined an autopsy
Of a little girl.
Of a little girl. No. So there is something called the special edition or the assembly cut, which Fincher was asked to work on, but he decided not to.
He said nuts to that.
Basically.
I'm David Fincher.
He gave it to his
I
supervisor.
gotta make the killer decades later.
That's right. He gave it to his supervising producer and said, listen, do whatever you want with it, just don't call it the director's cut. He's never seen it. But apparently this is very close to his original vision. It restores nearly 30 minutes of footage.
This is the one we saw.
This is the one we watched. So it fleshes out a lot of the characters and storylines. The alien in this version comes from an ox. It's got some cleaned up special effects, but certainly not all of them. Initially, of course, the alien came out of a dog, and at one point they put a whippet in a costume and had it run
That's
about.
right.
Didn't work at all, so they
Yeah,
scrapped that.
Oh, there's also a character in this movie, Golic, who becomes obsessed with the alien once he sees it.
And he's Paul McGann.
In the
He's Paul McGann.
It is Paul
Mason.
McGann.
Say he's Paul McGann.
It's Paul McGann. He was a Doctor Who for a minute.
He was.
In the original theatrical cut, if I recall, he just walks away in one scene and you just never see him again.
Yeah.
So
He's probably fine, I guess.
It's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. This, I mean, speaking of cast,
Yeah.
this is a real who's who.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you what, we've got Pete Postlethwaite, the man who Steven Spielberg said was the greatest actor in the world. He's in this for 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I think he's great in it in 5 minutes.
He's incredible.
A youngish Charles Dance.
Oh, my God. They wanted Richard E. Grant initially.
That wouldn't be bad.
I agree. 2 Doctor Who's, sort of.
Yeah.
Because he was in the Red Nose Day,
Oh, that's
whatever.
right, yeah. Ralph Brown, who people might know as Miami Vice in the Lock, Stock TV series.
Oh, my God. His name was Miami Vice.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Lance Henriksen is
Yes.
his yogurty face.
He does make an appearance as a puppet and as a real man, potentially. There's some theories around that. But look, yeah, it's so dour. Okay, so my second thing is that I think could have saved this is if this was the second movie.
Okay, what does that mean?
So you go...
It's too late.
No.
I cannot stress enough. They made that one. It's called Dollar Alien.
But if they went Alien, Alien 3, except don't call it Alien 3, obviously.
Okay, all right, sure.
Then you have a similar situation in a different scenario.
Okay.
And then the dourness of it is removed because she's not bringing a dead girl with her.
It's just her. Okay.
And then you move on to aliens. This cannot be done.
No.
I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
But I think if you did tweak the timeline, again, this would have been better
Now,
received.
we might talk about this later, but I believe another piece of media changes the canonicity of the fate of some of the characters in this
Oh.
movie, right?
I don't know. What are we talking
We're
about?
talking about colonial marines, right?
Oh my God, let's talk about that.
Oh, you want to talk about it now?
Why not? Well, let's talk about the deaths of these characters. So Carrie Henn, when she was asked about, well, you didn't return as Newt, but they did use a cast of your face from the previous movie. What do you think? And she was like, life goes on. But Michael Bean, or Mr. Bean, as you like to call him,
Correct.
he was very upset. He was hurt, first of all, not to be asked to return, and even more so that he was killed off immediately. He then found out through a third party that they'd made a replica of his body to use as a corpse that was going to be chest bursted, and he basically shut it down. He said, no, you can't do this. This obviously breaches like my personal copyright, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But he did allow them to use a photograph of him. And the money for that was nearly as much as he got paid for Aliens, just for that
Nice.
thing. Mr. Bean also later stated that if he had any idea that David Fincher was going to have a career like this, he probably would have been more accommodating and would have said, can I just be in your next movie, please?
Yeah, right.
But anyways, you mentioned that he's not really dead.
Well,
probably.
James, I learned this from you. So how accurate is it? But the video game Aliens Colonial Marines does a late act reveal that actually his body was switched out in the cryogenic suspension with another Marine.
That's right.
So we learned in the last video that Amanda Ripley not dead,
no.
Hicks not dead, Newt's still dead.
Yeah. Still very much dead.
Okay.
Alan Dean Foster, who did the novelization for this, even tried to save her in the book. Yeah, because he was like, no, please don't do this. Please, for the love of God. Do it for me, Alan Dean Foster.
Yeah.
And they said, no, Alan Dean Foster.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know Max Allen Collins. They
Wow.
said. Yeah, that's
I don't think that's true.
Wow. Another thing that I would probably change about this movie, James, is I would up the pace a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because the alien's not really a presence in this for like an hour.
Yeah.
And it's not a tense hour. It's just people chatting in rooms for an hour.
But it's interesting because I reckon and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I reckon it's 40 or 50 minutes in Aliens before the alien shows up. But you do not feel that at all.
You don't feel it, but you absolutely feel it in this version.
Yeah. But also you do kind of see it because it gets like chest burst and there is that. I mean, also bearing in mind, we did watch the extended cut.
That's true.
But yeah, there is hints towards it. But you're right. It's a little more on par with the original Alien in terms of pace, which is a hard thing to go back to after what they previously did, which speaks to my idea that this should have been the second movie. Of
course.
Which is a good idea. And why didn't they do it?
Right.
Why didn't they think of that?
Do you want to talk about the alien itself?
Yes.
Because I think the model work is great. And I think the
is.
CGI looks like it came out of some sort of educational CD-ROM from the 90s.
Okay, so yeah, I like the idea because it comes out of an animal, and maybe an ox doesn't make that much sense because it's not known for its speed or climbing on ceilings, but being sleeker and faster and all of that, I like that redesign. They got Giga in to redo it, but they didn't end up using it. I think they only used the redesign of the little one. The way they did this is it's a puppet, but they puppeteered it on green screen with rods, with motion control cameras.
Okay.
And then they had to match it into the scene. So that's why often when it's in an environment, it looks like it's in a different environment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of a waste of time when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that they tried to do this then, I mean, it's pretty much an impossible task given the technology. Like, CGI wasn't quite there yet. We're a couple years away from, like, Jurassic Park, for example.
Or The Seventh Guest.
Yeah.
Some sort of CD-ROM from that era.
That's right.
You know?
Is that spooky ghost house one?
Yes.
I remember
This is no Mist with a Y.
Original Mist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Mist 2 Riven.
That's right.
I've got a million of these.
I bet you do.
And nothing else. There's nothing else in here.
Empty. Like
Um,
a steel drum.
Yeah. I mean, at least, I suppose...
Like a steel drum, you make a lot of noise, but there's nothing in there.
Correct. Thank you. Finally, put that on my gravestone after you've dissected me. That's sad. I guess to put a positive spin on it, they tried something new.
Absolutely, they did. Yeah.
Didn't work.
I think maybe if they did puppeteering with forced perspective, it might have looked a little bit better, like more on-set puppeteering. I think that would have made a huge difference, you know? I think the puppeteering in itself is quite fluid. It's just the merging of those two things.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ripley has to shave her head.
Correct.
Now, Sigourney Weaver didn't like doing this, so if she had to come back and shave her head for reshoots, and they did do reshoots, she was going to get $40,000 every time she had to shave it.
Per head shave, my goodness.
So what they decided to do, because the studio did not want to spend any more money, they spent $16,000 to make a shaved head bald cap. And these are for some of the scenes, like at the end when she falls off the platform.
Sure.
That's a reshoot. Well, the theatrical version is because in the version we watched, she doesn't get chest burst.
Yeah.
But if you've seen the original, She
right.
does. That's a bald cap, and they saved a whopping $24,000.
That's pretty great. But again, they advanced the shaved head, bald cap technology, so we get movies like Furiosa.
Absolutely.
Anya Taylor-Joy's wearing a shaved head, bald cap, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. But look, I don't even hate the idea of bringing it back to one alien or the prison planet. I think that's an interesting concept. I think the religious angle is interesting. I think them being weaponless also works as well.
I think you're right because, when you see, Marines chewing through these, aliens with pulse rifles and smart guns and flamethrowers and etc., at a certain point, the audience is like, well, what's one alien kind of thing? So you do want to bring it back to there's only one.
And it's mean.
It's mean.
It's
right?
rude.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that the version we watched does that I liked, they capture the alien at one point for like an extended period of time. And the studio thought that this actually reduces the threat of the monster. But the thinking was of those who made the movie, which I agree with, it adds to the tension because it's not over.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna get out. So it's just
yeah.
a matter of how. And I think that sequence allows you to look more at this world and hear more from these characters.
Yeah.
Because from what I remember of watching the theatrical, it does feel like a lot of generic shaved head men just going rah, 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 rah.
Right.
And I think this kind of tones that down a little
Uh-huh,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think that this movie has the most iconic alien image in it.
Which is Ripley's shaved head. She's sort of
Yes.
head against the bathroom wall and the alien's coming at her from the side and it's all...
People know that.
Yeah.
That is like the image. And Fincher wanted to do that. He only had like an hour and a half to do it. The studio was like, we don't need this. But that was like the image that they sold this entire movie and probably even since franchise on.
Yeah.
I love it. Anyways, Ripley dies. Because Sigourney Weaver was like, if I have to do another one of these goddamn movies, I swear to God.
Oh, she put that in her contract, right? She has to die, something like that.
Or she wanted
she
to
only
die?
approved the scripts where she died, or something like
It's
that.
the Harrison Ford method of acting.
That's right,
In
yeah.
a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Just constantly asked to be frozen or died.
Right.
The sacrifice, in the original, the theatrical cut, the reshoot is that the Queen Alien is in her. And they use that to the advantage to kill the alien and it bursts out. And there's one guy there just filming everything on a chunky VHS camera.
Oh, hell yeah.
Did you notice?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Technology is back. Or worse, I don't know what they're doing here. But it was interesting that Bishop shows up, who's a real human man, maybe. What are your thoughts on this? Because there's two schools of thought.
Yeah, okay, is one that...
And they're both wrong.
Okay, is one that it's like a copy of the head of Weyland-Yutani's brain in an android or something?
The official line,
Yes.
according to the Wikipedia, if you can believe that.
Or like every like you get the original head of Weyland-Yutani who looks like Lance Henriksen and all his children look exactly like him somehow.
That's right. If we're going by AVP rules, which is not connected to the main alien continuity, Mason.
My God.
Yeah. Officially, this is the Michael Bishop, who is a pioneer in android technology.
Oh, okay, and Vane.
And Vane, you're right. And Lance Hendrickson, he believed this for the longest time. But what he did say...
Oh, but he was lied to, is what you're saying?
Well, he says, according to Starlog magazine, that he thinks Bishop 2 actually was a more advanced model. And they're not going to send the real guy out,
Right,
are
okay,
they?
yeah.
And of course, the reason why that people kind of dispute whether this is a man or not is because he gets like his ear like torn off his head.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Also, according to Lance Henriksen, that was Jack Nicholson's ear left over from Batman. But I don't remember him having a prosthetic ear.
No.
Might have been from a head cast or
Yeah,
something.
okay, sure,
I don't
right,
know.
yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson, he always leaves one of his ears, once they've wrapped filming.
Like a calling card.
Yeah, just to say thanks to the crew. Here's one of my ears. He throws it out, 7 years, good luck to whoever catches it.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's why Lance Henriksen got this role.
Oh, that is lucky. Anyways, I do also want to talk about another version of Alien 3 that very nearly happened. But before we do that, we of course have to do Trivia 3. This is the trivia section of the show.
That's right.
Where I say trivia.
Sometimes I say a little thing after you've said the trivia.
Sometimes.
I remain silent.
Yeah.
Stoically silent.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I say a little prayer.
You're a real wild card.
Yeah.
That's why these videos work. Not everybody thinks they work though.
Absolutely not. You should see us after we've recorded some of these. We're like, I don't know if this worked.
To create a convincing corpse of the character of Newt, the filmmakers created life-size mannequin molds of Carrie Henn from Aliens 1986. The molds had been used as that puppet that Sigourney Weaver carries around for a lot of that movie, instead of carrying an actual child, because that's heavy, as I would know. This is also the first film in the franchise that show the alien eating their victim.
Yeah, because normally they would just do some
Karate.
some stabbing and some grabbing.
And some karate.
And some karate,
Yeah.
sure, okay.
A cut.
James's parents didn't want him to do karate, so they said it was aliens attacking you.
But little do they know, I've been learning a bunch of karate. And I'm actually going around tomorrow to do some karate on them.
Oh, good.
Do you want to come?
Yes. Been waiting decades for this. See your parents get karateed.
A cast of Meryl Streep's face was used in the 3D model on the monitor that shows the scan of the face hugger on Ripley.
Oh.
As they didn't have one of Sigourney Weaver. These were a pain in the ass to do back in the day, obviously, yeah. And a mechanical copy of Henriksen's likeness was used in this movie for the portrayal of the Sulaco Bishop. Now, at the time, this was the most sophisticated and state-of-the-art motion-controlled puppet that had ever been used in a movie. It's great.
Yeah.
It's such a good puppet. It's way better than the Ash head they use in the first Alien.
From years prior. It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's that one sucks, Mason.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen it recently.
Yeah, that's right. Anyways, the box office on this on a budget of $55 million, which was also, of course, due to significant reshoots, and made $159.8, which was the lowest in the franchise and not good also in relation to its budget. But it did turn a profit. People were excited to see more Alien, even if it was this one.
Yeah, I think maybe the lower box office in this instance was. Somebody might say it's because of fewer aliens, or they didn't have space marines or cool stuff like that. But maybe it was bad word of mouth because they killed that kid, and it was a real misery.
We don't know.
It's probably the dead kid, I reckon.
Now, famously, there is another version of Alien 3 which
She drowned.
Yeah, she drowned in a pod.
Yeah.
Now, famously, there is another version of Alien 3 which people constantly bring up. It has a comic adaptation, it has a book, and it also has a audible original movie. It's like 2 hours.
This would be the version based on a script by William Gibson.
Correct.
Cyberpunk pioneer, author of Neuromancer.
That's right. So it focuses more on Hicks and Bishop. The version that I listened to, because it was the quickest, was the audio drama. And they actually got back Mr. Bean and Lance Henriksen. It is very light on Ripley.
It sounds like an Odd Couple comedy from what you're saying so far.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
It's very light on Ripley because they didn't want to pay Sigourney Weaver initially that amount of money. She got $4 million for Alien 3 in the end, which I guess they saved all the money on killing the other people who were in the other movies, I guess.
And haircuts.
Yeah, that's right. So look, I don't know if you could say that it's definitively better. I think it's very similar to that of Aliens.
There'd be fewer visuals, wouldn't there? On account of it being an audio drama.
I mean, I'm just saying story-wise.
Sure.
If I strip that away, it was an interesting.
Also, no visuals and no story. Much worse, if I had to guess.
It was interesting to kind of see how it might have played out.
Yeah.
But I couldn't definitively say whether it would be better than Alien 3. Also, especially this version of Alien 3, I don't mind it. I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think everybody's good
I'm
in
an apologist.
Yeah, you seem that way.
And I'm a karate master, as my parents will soon find out.
That's right. I think it's got a certain meditative quality to a lot of the
I thought you were going to say charm, but I was going to say that's certainly
No,
not
it doesn't
true.
have charm, but it's got a meditative quality, like a lot of the conversations where it's a bunch of people just kind of sitting down and talking about faith and God and the evil
And how many
of the
people they
world.
killed.
Yeah, and regret and this kind of stuff. But like you could also see that in a movie without sad aliens and
Watch the Martin Scorsese movie and set in Japan about faith or whatever. There
sure.
you go. There's
Yeah,
your
yeah.
sad religious movie.
That's right.
Now look, the only person's opinion on film that matters is Christopher Nolan.
Oh, that is so true, isn't it?
And this is what he said on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast about Alien 3.
Okay, you got to imagine a man flipping a scarf, and then he's got an opinion. Here it is.
He said, it's the Alien 3 lesson that Fincher won. You can do it, but it's not going to make anybody happy, even though, personally, I love that film. I love it more than he does, I think. I've never dared mention it to him. Oh, you can imagine him saying that.
Yes.
I've never dared mention it to him.
David, there's something I need to say, David. Alien 3, I love it.
I think he's very aware of the flaws, and he's very aware of the appalling experience he had making it and how put upon he was. And I truly can only imagine. But his talent shines through in that movie. I came out of that film and had a conversation with a guy, and
You there.
I came into that film and had a conversation with a guy I was with, and I said, I've just seen the new Ridley Scott. I know who the new Ridley Scott is. It's David Fincher. And I wasn't wrong. Bit of a brag there. Yeah.
And also, he's saying this on a podcast. He's not saying this in 1993 in a newspaper.
No.
He's saying it far in the future.
It's true. He said it's there in the movie whether he knows it or not. Yeah, I think a lot of David Fincher does shine through on this movie. And look, I know he wouldn't do it, but God, I would love to see a David Fincher alien movie where they just let him do whatever.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they will. Maybe, Offer him some big dollars. He'll come back.
Look, that's not the only thing I want to see, Mason.
Uh-huh.
I want to see a service called bigsandwich.co, which is run by us.
Oh, you want to see that?
I want to see it.
Okay.
Because behind that, we have early videos, including all the Caravan of Garbages. We also have movie commentaries. We've got one coming up on Prometheus.
That's right.
We do a comic book club. We've got a couple on Alien, don't we? We've
That's
got an
right.
Alien versus Predator one and another really good
If
spooky
you like
Alien one.
horrible, sad universes where all the good guys get torn to shreds.
Oh, you're going to love that Alien
Yeah.
comic we talk about. We also do video game Let's Plays.
That's right.
We played Aliens Colonial Marines recently.
That's right.
That's how Mason learned that thing about Hicks.
It's canonical until they change it.
That's right, so it might not be. Again, that's a bigsandwich.co. It helps keep these ad-free if you are interested. Also, if you don't want to pay any money, that's okay.
Yeah, it's cool too.
But we have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That's got its own YouTube channel. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. We do the biggest movies of the week and whatever, don't we?
That's exactly right.
So we're going to be doing Alien Romulus, which I'm very excited for. Directed by David Fincher. Just found out. So
Yeah, wow.
it's exciting.
Wow, Christopher Nolan said that, and our podcast is the best thing he's ever seen. Straight from the horse's mouth.
He watches our podcast?
Yeah, he watches it. Yeah,
He's a strange man.
he's at the window right now. Look,
Oh, yeah.
you can just see the scarf.
I don't know. He's odd.
Yep, agreed.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, grab that gem, you guys. We'll see you next week.
And thank you, Lawrence, for the edit.
Thank you, Lawrence.